2 days ago, one of the biggest producers of carrots in the country closed its doors for good. Hughes's Farming and Agriculture filed for bankruptcy, and they farmed approximately 700 acres of carrots, parsnips and daffodils, and they've gone out of business. And you just have to look at the inflationary pressures over the last 10 years and the price paid for primary produce. Effectively, the price has been eroded. The price paid for vegetables has come down since 2003. So rather than going up with inflation, it's actually come down. And the reason the price has come down has been driven primarily by the price pressures imposed upon farmers by supermarkets. And this is clearly unsustainable. And it feeds into a situation we have in this country where, 84% of the fruit and veg that we eat is imported. We produce loads of food, we just export most of the food we produce, and it's mainly beef and dairy. Primary reason for any farmers to go out of business is because they're not being paid adequately for the produce they're growing. And I think when you have price promotions consistently being delivered by supermarkets, then it's unsustainable. And for instance, just this same week, there's a price promotion on Irish bunched carrots for $1.29. And it's behaviour like this that has without any doubt contributed to the fact that, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, there was over 600 commercial growers, and today there's 73 now actually, because as a result of Hughes's bankruptcy.
Welcome back to my channel, and this is what's happening.
How much worse does it have to get?
Island farmers
before we are
protesting
all our fruit
against the government.
So thank you for
your
support, because
some farmers have been dragged up from their farm, and the farmers are protesting. And let's watch this video and see what is happening.
We can support other Irish growers, pay them fair prices. It's a smaller retail model, but it seems to be working, and we really, really are so grateful for all of your support, because it makes such a difference. So hopefully now we're finally going to see some changes and some protection for the primary producers of this country that are in dire need of it. So thank you.
To 4 years ago, they were crying because they couldn't afford their student loans. It's kind of strange, because if you're an expert in finance and you got college educated on finance, wouldn't you think you could take care of your finances in your own house?
I don't know, shouldn't you be able to handle your own finances without constantly relying on Dems to give you handouts and bail you out? Recognize this guy? This is a perfect example of why people make FAFO content. This is a perfect example of why regret is not the same as redemption. You may remember this guy from a video where he was crying about losing his farm because he spent a bunch of money he didn't have because he was banking on receiving certain subsidies that he was promised thanks to the Biden admin. And then when Trump got into office, the guy he wanted, and put a freeze on all the aid that was going out, including the aid going to American farmers like himself, he suddenly had a problem with the whole endeavor. People, of course, understandably dragged him, made a bunch of FAFO content, and then he came out and asked people to stop, kicking him while he was down, that he was here to listen and to learn, and that he didn't know about all this Project 2025 stuff. He'd had the wool pulled over his eyes. But now he's in pain, he's afraid for his farm, he's willing to hear people out. In fact, it sparked a conversation where people were saying, let's embrace these people who are regretting their choices, and let's speak to them, because clearly they want to learn. I'm not going to say that everyone who has regrets doesn't want to learn. What I'm saying is that having regrets does not mean that someone has learned. Having regrets about doing something that would harm a lot of people simply because you're now being harmed, that's not a lesson. You're still operating completely out of self-interest. You have not learned anything. So what happened? Well, a bunch of people who have been pushing against this administration and all the havoc it has been wreaking, all the destruction it is causing, sued the admin over those frozen funds and successfully got those funds unfrozen, at least temporarily. So this learning and listening farmer got his funds released. Now he's fine. What do you think? Did he learn a lesson? Nope. He's now back to going after everyone else. He's now back to not listening to people when they're explaining how tariffs are going to harm the economy. For example, he's now making fun of people who took out student loans. If they're bad with their finances, what are you, dude? What are you? What is your farm if it cannot exist or survive without Dems bailing it out all the time? Yeah, when things get bad for you again, no one's going to be fooled when you claim to be listening and learning. Next time it's time for you to find something out, we're gonna know. If you're not out there like working to undo the harm that you caused, I'm sorry. Your regret is not redemption.
Hey folks, the video you're about to see is pretty heartbreaking. The guy's not getting paid for this. He's literally having to throw his milk away. And this is purely because Muller, that's the dairy company that make yogurt and milk, etc., aren't picking up. They're not picking up the phone, they're not picking up the milk. They're not paying him. It's absolutely disgusting. So take a look and hopefully you'll boycott Muller for a while. This is just sickening. Anyway, enjoy and please share the hell out of this.
Welcome to another day with Muller Dairies. No answer. No correspondence. Don't ring. Don't email. We just have to tip the milk. And there's not a damn thing we can do. I mean, it's just a joke. It honestly is. You know, what is the point? 29 years of milking cows to see this. Never in 29 years have ever had it. Ever. You know, there aren't words. There is just not words to describe this. Honestly. There is, you know, we can't give it away. You know, we're losing thousands a day, a week. They're setting on 2 weeks now. Nothing from Muller. And where does it end? Watching 29 years of work literally go down the drain. Like I say, can't even give it away. Hey, there's my letter. They'll prosecute me if I give it away. Damned if we do, damned if we don't. I can't put into words. Can't put it into words anymore.
I know that it confuses people sometimes because I have a very London accent, but I am incredibly proud to be Irish. And as I say, I never feel the need to correct somebody or prove anything to anybody. And I'm also very, very cautious of the stories that I tell on social media, because I think all too often these days, people are very, very keen on getting likes and views, and they're quick to hand away their integrity or talk about other people's private life. However, I will tell you this story. My dad actually came to the UK in the 70s, late 70s, and now, sadly, he's passed away. But
unless you've been living under a rock, you're no doubt aware that Ireland is in a state of chaos this week. And if you're living abroad or just haven't had time to keep up with the news, here's everything you need to know about the situation. So the US and Israel went to war with Iran. That conflict spread to the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most important shipping routes in the world, and global fuel prices went through the roof. In Ireland, the people who felt that worst were farmers, hauliers, fishermen, and contractors. If you haven't noticed a common theme, it's people running heavy diesel machinery every single day. One protest spokesperson said his fuel bill alone is set to hit €70,000 this year. You can't absorb that. So on Tuesday, they'd had enough. Tractors, trucks, vans, buses, convoys formed in every corner of the country. O'Connell Street, the M50, motorways across Tipperary, Clare, Cork, Limerick and Galway were blocked. The Luas was suspended and Dublin Bus was in chaos as usual. Surprise, surprise. People dragging their luggage across the M50 went viral. Dylan Page made a video on it. And then it escalated. Protesters moved to blockade fuel depots and ports. In Whitegate, Ireland's oil refinery, which supplies around 40% of the country's fuel, was blockaded too. The forecourt started running dry. Panic buying began. By day 3, the army had moved in to remove blockading vehicles. The Justice Minister warned that if you don't personally move your vehicle, don't complain about the damage. The Taoiseach called it sinister and despicable, and the Taoiseach called the Whitegate blockade an act of national sabotage. It's worth mentioning videos went viral of armoured personnel carriers on the roads. The Defence Forces clarified that those were actually troops on a training exercise heading to a UN mission. But the fact that people even immediately believed the army had rolled out tanks tells you everything you need to know about the atmosphere in Ireland at the moment. Here's the political problem. The government will only sit down with official bodies such as the IFA and the Haulage Association. But here's the hitch. The people on the roads say these organisations don't speak on their behalf and want to meet ministers directly. The government won't do it. The protesters have said they can't afford to stop. The government won't negotiate with blockades, and Ireland is now running low on fuel. Who knows what the situation is going to be like in the next few days and what the solution is, but follow for more updates.
Farmers across Northern Ireland are worried, and they have every reason to be. Right now, the Department for Agriculture is consulting on major changes to something called the Nutrients Action Plan, or NAP. It's a set of rules aimed at reducing pollution from farming, especially from slurry and fertiliser. Everyone wants clean water and a healthy environment, but these proposals go too far, too fast, and the consequences could be devastating. Around 3,500 farms will be affected in the first phase. Many will face impossible choices, including cutting livestock, buying costly new equipment, or finding land they simply don't have. For some, it could mean walking away from the family farm altogether. And let's be clear, these aren't big industrial agri-businesses. These are family-run farms that have supported rural life for generations. They keep money in the local economy, provide jobs, and feed our community. If this plan goes ahead in its current form, the impact won't stop at the farm gate. It will hit butchers, mechanics, vets, small shops, cafes, every part of the rural supply chain. And yet the department has admitted that it hasn't carried out any proper assessment of the human or economic impact. This is not just careless, it's completely unacceptable. Farmers have already made progress in improving environmental standards. They are not the problem, but they are being punished like they are. This plan, as it stands, is unworkable. It threatens livelihoods, weakens our food security, and risks dismantling a way of life that so many depend on. Northern Ireland is a rural economy, and this is pulling the rug from under us. The government needs to pause, go back and do this properly, with a full impact assessment and real engagement with those on the ground, those that it will affect, and those who are part of the solution. Because you cannot protect the environment by destroying the very communities who look after it every single day. So to anyone watching this, whether you're directly affected or not, I want to hear from you. If you're a farmer, a farm worker, a small business owner, someone working in the supply chain, share your story. Tell me what this would do to you, your family, your business, or your community, so that I can represent you in the Assembly and your voice is heard in a way that the department is not hearing. Because the only way we get this message through if it's loud, clear, and coming from the people who live it every day.